各位观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看我们 J 与 J 论坛，由我跟Jim Notary 一起来讨论这个礼拜的时事。How are you doing, Jim?
I'm doing fine. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to everybody around the world that's listening and watching us.
It's been another week of non-stop news， 又是多一个礼拜的纷争，但是慢慢的这个闹剧也要落幕了。不管你支持的是哪一党，我们都希望能够安居乐业，也可以能够正常的在生活。After another week of news, we finally can see some clarity. No matter who you support or who you think you support, as normal Americans, as citizens, we just want to live in peace and live in safety. And I know you are. I am ready for this to be put behind us so we can just take it a step forward and get this over with.
Yeah. I think we're in for at least another month of what's happened in the last couple of weeks.
Doesn't look too good right now for one side. I can tell you that. But one thing's important, Jim. I actually have not in the past probably year by now. I don't watch network news anymore. I don't watch CNN or Fox or CBS, ABC. I just don't. I don't look at blogs. I kind of get, the way I look at news now is I look at news from all over the world. That is not, of course, they have their own perspective, but I look at, let's see, SCMP, Al Jazeera, I look at The Guardian. You know, there's a lot of different news sources from around the world that I look at. What is your source of journalist news reports? What do you watch or what do you read? You mentioned before that Wall Street Journal's editorials that you
right.
Remember that, and I do that too. Wall Street Journal I will always read, but that is pertaining to my industry. 我会看华盛顿这个不是华盛顿这个华尔街日报，因为这是我们行业的这个
right
公报呀。但是我不会看美国这个大的这些新闻台的，因为真的是立场太明显，有太多的这个争议，那就会激起你的情绪。那我想问 Jim 说，他平常都看什么报纸？像我看的很多都是国际的。比如说这个不同国家的报道，这样子才能够比较公平的分析。Jim, what is your trusted source of information?
In terms of trusted source, I would say the Wall Street Journal, both the editorial and the reporting are by far the number one. But I also read daily the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Houston Chronicle. Houston Chronicle to try to get local news.
I will always read Chronicle, but now instead of the actual, I grew up, my family my father established reading newspapers as a habit. It is not a choice now. So ever since I was probably 17, I would read USA Today, Houston Chronicle, probably a couple of the Chinese papers too. As I grew older, it became USA Today, and well, that faded away because USA Today is no good anymore. Chronicle, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. You know what's sad is when you mention Washington Post and New York Times, people will radicals will automatically label you as a liberal because it's perceived that these newspapers have an agenda. They'll always bring up Jeff Bezos owns Washington Post, New York Times is owned by. This is what's scary is that the distrust, we mentioned this before, the distrust that this election has brought up, where we cannot discern correct information, where if you cannot trust the media or discern what is real and what is fake news, what is conspiracy, then it makes it very problematic for you, for all of us, for the 70 million that voted either way, right? Well, how do you discern that?
Well, a couple of things. First, I read those because I want what I might call a balanced approach. I want to see and understand things that the other side may not pick up. I'll come back to that point in a moment. I want to see and understand what the other people in life may be thinking, what they want to propose, how they are looking at evidence, how they may want to document things, persuade other people. I don't think there's any secret that particularly the Washington Post, but also the New York Times, have a very liberal agenda. And they try to undermine the very sources of news that I read in the Wall Street Journal I do watch Fox News sometimes. My favorite guy there by far is Tucker Carlson, because he comes at things very, very differently here. He is totally irreverent. He doesn't subscribe. He is not a Trump acolyte like some of them are. He bounces in and he puts a lot of things in perspective. The other thing that I watch is The Economist, because they have a far broader reach of international activity, as you know. And I think despite the U.S.'s position in the world, we are citizens of the world. We have to pay attention, hence everything you and I talk about here. But arguably, Houston and energy is probably the single most important industry in the world. And Houston is the center of that. Probably more blood has been spilled in the latter half of the 20th century over energy issues than anything else singularly. Tech, of course, is much, much more important now than it was even 10 or 15 years ago. But I still think energy is critically important. So you got to watch what happens abroad. All those other things. And then there's a smattering of things. And like you mentioned, blogs. I probably get emails that I do not subscribe to, but they come to me from 10 different news sources literally every day. And I look at the headlines, and if I'm interested, I'll keep going. Some of them are Texas-based information sources. I watch Crane's New York Business in New York because I think New York business is so important to everybody else. And I pay close attention to California because California is such a leader in so many things. And I grew up in California. My family is still there. So all of those things are important. So I've found it interesting about what Governor Newsom is doing in the last couple of days. So.
Lots of controversy with Gavin. I don't want to get into him because people are going to say, oh, California. Look at all the people that are moving away from California.
Right.
See, for the radicals here, which is basically all my friends now, being Texans, being in the energy sector, I grew up here. Most of my friends ended up in oil and gas. Mm-hmm. I understand for their future, for their family, for their income. I get why you have to vote a certain way, but some of them are being very radicalized. I think it's about being in the environment when everyone around you has only but one voice. When they can only give you that. It's the same way for me. Is that and everybody I work with are one-sided, conservative, and they've been. And these are smart people. So it's not really just about facts anymore or science. It's an ideology, and I understand that everyone around me is pro-Trump. I'm the only one because I grew up in a family where my father has always encouraged me. My father was a diplomat to read differently because for me and you, financially, my income level, my social standing and whatnot, it's very obviously it's beneficial to be conservative. It's beneficial that Mr. Trump helps me supposedly, but it didn't. That's why we're in America. That's why it's great. Now, what he just said is funny about California. Everyone I talk to, a lot of people have to make fun of people. Oh, why don't you move to you liberal tart? Why don't you move to California? Look at how bad it is to California. How come everybody wants to move away from California right now? See, those statements are generalization. I have always said, and I'll say it again, if my family wasn't here, if financially I have the freedom to be anywhere, who wouldn't want to live in California? The weather, the culture, the food, the atmosphere, you're from California. Just because you have a conservative ideology, you can't. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, New York is a bad place, or LA or San Francisco or California overall you shouldn't live there because the governance, because the politics. That is ridiculous. Absolutely. What do you say about that, Jim? You're from California. You're a natural. Do you think politics has really turned California into a place that is not livable, that everyone's moving away because of the politics?
Well, I wouldn't. I think when you say it like that, you're overstating it. I think what a lot of people don't realize is California, economically and culturally, demographically, is really two different states. There's the coastal activity, which starts in the Pacific Northwest, where all the environmentalists try to keep the trees, everything. Comes south to San Francisco. San Francisco is probably the liberal epicenter of the country, second only maybe to Washington, D.C. Then you move down the coast, you get to a little bit into Silicon Valley. And in the last 10 years, it has taken on a very important liberal stance as well. You move south.
Progressive. Can we not use the word liberal? Can we use progressive?
Well, you can use progressive. Okay, yeah, I think that's a better term.
Willing to change. Because we're in Texas. Being liberal is a bad word. It's a bad word. Literally is an insult now.
Well, maybe, but I would consider myself, in the classic definition of liberal, I would consider myself partially liberal because I like flexibility. I like tolerance, all those things that liberals have always wanted. I believe in civil rights. I believe in human rights, all those things. So right now, I don't want to classify people using those labels. Labels are difficult because, so at any rate, but keep moving south. You go through Santa Cruz, then Santa Barbara. Pretty soon you get down into Los Angeles. Los Angeles has Hollywood. Los Angeles has all kinds of other things. But LA, 2 generations ago, and then you get to Orange County. Orange County, even 5-10 years ago, was extremely conservative. You get to San Diego, and historically, it too has been conservative. But over the last 10, 15, 20 years, all of those southern coast areas have gotten progressively more progressive. Okay, if that isn't redundant. And so, but the other side of California is the Central Valley.
Bakersfield, for example, Sacramento.
Which is agriculture, and it goes almost all the way up, in the south, and then it goes up all the way almost to the Oregon border. And the agricultural areas are every bit business-wise and politically very much like Texas, very much so. And you haven't seen a lot of exodus from California from those areas. You've seen a lot from the coast. And part of the coast is because of the costs of living, primarily housing and local politics. That does not exist at all in the Central Valley. They are open, much more like Texas is, in part because they have plenty of land.
Thank you. This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to tell the people that are making these statements about Californians. California is a very diverse state, just like Texas. But the fact is that the communist way, I'm very familiar with China's history with communism and Russia. So it's the same tactic as communists, using the countryside, the rural areas to surround the cities. And to slowly take it over. That's how the communists took over China. California is happening. I'm very familiar with California. I live there. I visit there all the time. I love being in California. Orange County, you're right. It seems people forget California is a huge state. There is still millions of people that are strong conservatives.
Oh, yeah.
Just because that state is, it doesn't mean it's not. And so there's still counties and cities that are. And also, when you talk about Orange County, I'm familiar with Orange County because there's a huge population of Asian American immigrants. A lot of friends and families there. Orange County could have changed, but the fact is, the ones you see on the street every weekend in Orange County, which I get the news every day, get the reports, our friends, our videos, every day there is a protest to stop the steal. Every day there are radicalized right-wing Proud Boy conspiracy spears on the streets waving flags and throwing things. And guess what? They're Asian Americans. They're mostly Vietnamese Americans. This is in Orange County. Very cool. It's not in LA County. It's not in Orange County. So I want to talk about that.
Let me interrupt you on that point. In the 2018 elections, 3 or 4 congressional districts in Orange County flipped from longtime Republican-held seats to Democrat. And on this election, I count 3 that flipped back to Republican. Okay. So I think on a net basis, and there was similar things in the state house as well, what they call the assembly in California. So on a net basis, Republicans actually gained this time in California. I haven't seen the precise numbers, but some people have said that maybe, quote, progressive politics has bottomed or peaked out, and Republicans have bottomed out. It's changed just a little bit.
As it will continuously. Anytime you swing too far right or too far left, it will always come back to the middle. It's always been like that. That's the beauty of our system.
Right.
So
and it's interesting we're talking about California, because I would think many people in China would look at the United States and see California most prominently for all kinds of historical reasons, geographic,
film, entertainment industry,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You see the palm trees, you see Newport Beach, and you think that's U.S. America. You understand that is, you have to be very high income to live in those areas, because there's state tax, there's local taxes. Unless you're in entertainment or technology, I mean, it is very hard to live in California. That is a fact.
Right.
The gas prices there are ridiculous. Food cost of living is high, but there's a reason why, because everybody wants to live there. Why? The weather's good, infrastructure is great, lots of outdoor space. Like you said, culture is the culture, where they're from all over the world, and you're welcome. You don't feel unwelcome like some parts of Texas where there's only one dominant race, or where there's a lot of harshness. It's harder, like East Coast, right? New York. People are different. California's relaxed. The sun.
Well, I think interestingly, I think that people in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s moved to California from primarily the Northeast because of the culture, the freedom, the economic growth opportunities, all those things. It was a very comfortable place to go and grow. Now, interestingly, I think the culture in California has changed some. It's not as much of that open, freedom, flexible, in part because of housing costs, but also progressive attitudes. And ironically, Texas, in terms of comparison on a relative basis, has much more of that freedom and openness and welcoming than California does. I think if somebody moves from Chicago or Cleveland or New York to California, California is not as welcoming. It's not as hospitable. It's not as friendly as it once was. And I think Texas is. Even the big cities of Texas, Houston, certainly, we call it Southern nice. And Dallas has always been that way, Fort Worth, San Antonio, certainly. People are welcoming here. And I mean, look at California, particularly San Francisco, has always been very ethnically diverse. LA, not so much, some, but not so much. Orange County, not much at all. Until the Vietnamese.
I don't mean to cut you off, but when you talk about welcoming, maybe for a Caucasian American, very welcoming. I'm not going to assume what other races feel, but I can speak for mine.
Right.
You are a Chinese immigrant from China. You come to Texas, you come to Houston, where it's Southern charm. Howdy, y'all. I grew up here. I know we're friendly. And then you drive to Bel Air on the weekends, the past few weekends, and you see these Trumpers waving flags saying, "Go back to China, you China virus." You Biden, you're a co-conspirator, you're a commie, and you're an immigrant from China or Taiwan or Hong Kong. They don't know the difference. You China virus, you Wuhan Kong flu. Go back to your country.
Yeah.
It's no longer welcoming.
Well, I can't deny that that's part of the I don't want to call it culture here, but there is an element of historical Texas culture, historical Southern culture, but I think it's quite small.
There's Trump trains with this camouflage cars that I see every weekend for the past few months, wearing mega hats, in my face yelling, waving Confederate flags. I don't think that would happen in most parts of California, except for
I would agree with that. That would be.
I would not stand for that because it scares my kids. People that drive around with rifles and automatic weapons outside polling stations.
Right.
Why is it that only one side does that? Why is it that only Trumpers do that? How come you don't see Democrats with guns running around or spilling conspiracy theories? Okay, you know what? I don't want to talk about that because every time we talk about it, there's no solution because we are stuck in our ways. Like I said, I am a moderate. I will vote for a good Republican candidate. But I know my friends that are Trumpers will never, so they claim, they will never, ever, ever vote for someone that doesn't stand with Trump or Trump doesn't support. Like I said, radicalization. I want to go back to our main topic, which is the economic outlook. Okay, I'm not supposed to talk about individual stocks. I cannot. It's illegal.
Right. No, that's fine.
I'm licensed.
You probably don't even want to talk about sectors, maybe.
I really don't. I try not to, but a lot of people, this is the number one concern. That's why I said the wealth gap, what this election has done, this pandemic has done, is create a wider gap. What a lot of immigrants don't understand, I want to tell them, a lot of watchers are immigrants or our viewers or don't understand. Look, me and you we've done well. Okay, I'm in the market. You're a real estate developer. For your body of work speaks for itself. We just talked about it earlier. You've had decades of experience. Mm-hmm. This pandemic, it hurts us freedom-wise or kids-wise, but financially, we don't feel it like the lower income folks.
Oh, yeah.
But people have to understand this. People will say, well, you vote for Trump, you vote for conservative because you want tax cuts. You want your life to be better. It's your money that you earn. Why do you have to give it to the government? What people don't understand is this. This is why this country is great. So even though we have more, especially Thanksgiving is next week. By the way, we will not take next week because it's Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We would take the day early or, yeah.
We would be eating while we talk.
Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't be. I'll be passed out. Every time I have turkey gravy, I'm dozing off in the afternoon and I'm watching my football games. You don't want me on TV during that. I would not be coherent. But you see, that's the American way, right? We're thankful. We give back.
Right.
I don't want to have this kind of income and live in a gated community with armed guards like some South American or European countries. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. I want the wealth to be distributed. I want to have a strong middle class. I want to help. Every year, Christmas time is when we donate. We adopt a family. We give out food. We do so many charity events. I've chaired some of those events. This year, I'm getting requests in left and right. And I know we don't see it because this is not the news. This is, the stock market's going. Look at what Trump has done for us. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at what Biden has done. Biden won. Look at the market going. Mm-hmm. The stock market does not reflect what really is going on in the economy. The market is flat the last few days because a lot of the price is built in. I want to tell you, these institutional investors, these hedge funds, these big companies, retirement funds, is built in. We know the vaccine is coming out. I told you last week, even if everything goes right, it will be months before it will be administered and executed. Okay, the execution getting into our bodies. And there's going to be that 1/3 of Trumpers that refuse to take vaccine that says that this is a scam. There's people that even now still says this pandemic is fake. This virus is not real. Every day I hear from my friends on Facebook, on Instagram, I'm texting. People ask me, what do I tell them? Do I drag them to the hospital? There are people that still believe it even on their deathbed. There are people that says, well, the death rate is only 1%. Well, that's 3 million. We have over 300 million people here. 1% is 3 million. It's only 1%. Oh, the death rate is only 1% more. Or the flu kills more. Well, those are not true. None of that's true.
No. It's more like 100 of 1%. And
see, we're still arguing about numbers. I know someone that died. Have you? Do you? You do, right?
I've known a few people. Not well.
Until we get it, we can say all we want. This is real. Other countries beat it. We did it. I don't want to keep coming back here because it's like a never-ending chicken egg. Trump's responsibility, he told people not to wear a mask. He said it. This is all on record. Yeah. He told me his advisor that is not a specialist is spewing nonsense, spreading wrong info. But the people here in Houston, we're in trouble. I have a lot of friends that work in healthcare. Yeah. Beds are full. They're not making it up. The morgues are full. The beds are full. You go in, they put you on a ventilator. They cannot give you these experimental drugs like Trump did. We don't get access to that. Jim, I pray to God every day that you don't get it and I don't get it. Because we can argue all we want. Until we get it, we can just sit there as a selfish American and say, it's none of my business.
No, but what is happening right now, in part because of the rising case rate and the rising number of deaths, absolute number of deaths are rising, and the hospitalization absolute numbers are rising. We're facing more and more lockdowns. And so we're all going to be affected by it one way or another. But to your point at the beginning of this part of the discussion, Jimmy, the pain falls differentially on different kinds of people. It falls much heavier on blue-collar workers, on people who either must continue to work despite the pandemic, they don't have the opportunity to work at home, and or their enterprises where they work suffer mostly and they get laid off.
Jim,
and
but that's my point.
It accentuates the divide.
No, but this is my point from the beginning. You're reiterating my point. I already know what my conservative friends will say. We cannot have a lockdown. These people need to work. Well, guess what? If everyone wore a mask and everyone social distance is to listen to Abbott or Trump, we wouldn't have to shut down. We have to shut down because of that. And I don't want to shut down. I get it. I just said that we're privileged. I get to trade at home. We can work at home. The divide, my 401k is huge. I've made so much money in the stock market. But guess what? These people are not. The stock market doesn't represent the real economy. So now you're still saying, well, the flu number is just flu or the death number is not that high. These people have to go to work. These people have to make a living for their family, to feed their family. And they're the ones that are suffering for it. The top 1% is not paying for it with their lives. It's the elderly, the blue collar, the lower income people that are hurt. So please, like this, this is not just with you. This is with everyone, literally in Houston. That my circle, oil and gas people, Trumpers. Radicalized. This is not a political question. This is not a politics. This is about humanity. This is about caring about your neighbors, about this society where we don't have to live in an ivory tower and be isolated from everyone else like Trump does in his Trump Tower or in Florida. I don't want to have to go out and only shop in my ethnic group, or that's not what America is. Do you understand my frustration, Jim? I'm so frustrated.
Of course, to one degree or another, we all have either that frustration to one degree or other similar frustrations. But it falls heavily on certain parts of the population. And what we're seeing now, I was surprised it held off for so long, but what we're seeing now is dramatic rise in other social ills that are a consequence of the lockdowns, particularly domestic violence and family abuse.
I'm sorry. I've heard this before. Like I said, it goes back, right? We don't have to have a lockdown if Trump did his job. If we wore a mask and social distance in March, if this idiot Abbott didn't say, hey, Willis or Lieutenant Governor Dan, let's sacrifice your grandparents, this will not happen. You cannot come back and blame the result of their actions. That's very, very, it's gaslighting. You cannot gaslight me. Mm-hmm. Well, people need to work. Or the domestic violence, the mental health. None of this is needed. If we did it in the beginning, now it's out of control and we have to control it. So what, do we just keep letting it spread until everyone herd immunity? I'm so sick of hearing this word herd immunity.
But Jimmy, it's happening in Europe. It's happening in other
Give me facts. Show me signs. Which country? Europe is shutting down. England just shut down. France is shutting down. New York shutting down.
Yeah, and they're shutting down now again because the virus spread. Italy is as bad now as it was in March and April.
Because they didn't listen either. Hey, what about China, Korea, Japan, Singapore, Taiwan? How come everybody's open up now? There's no pandemic. Economy's great. They listened. They wore a mask. They didn't sit there argue and say, well, because we have suicide rates are high and domestic violence and these blue collar. No. Because for them, we have to shut down. As elites, as high income individuals, we're so selfish. Mm-hmm. This is why we're here. As American, look, we go to church, we pray every Sunday. Mm-hmm. I think about a lot of my actions. If my pastor, is God going to judge me? Is the only final judge? Am I giving up something for someone else? I am, because I can easily be like my friends. Oh, we cannot shut down. I still need to go play my golf, go to my dinner, shop. Because you know, if I get sick, I'll get taken care of. Let's just be real. I'll be taken care of. I'm not going to worry. I have masks on. I don't want the economy shut down. It hurts me. I want my market to keep going. I need to keep trading and making money. I want my clients to have more money. I want oil and gas to keep booming. I don't want renewables. You know what? I don't really care about these poor folks. That it's none of my business. No shutdown. I could easily say that. I could. I don't have to sit there and stick my neck out. But guess what, Jim? If everyone thinks like us, then we will go into complete chaos. It will be just one-sided with the elites running the country. We'll be just like a South American dictatorship. I'm not saying that. No, this is not about you. This is about what a lot of these people, I've heard this, you know, a lot of my friends have been saying the same things, my friends, my colleagues. So you're basically taking the brunt of a whole week's worth of this. This is why I said we should talk about real estate, how successful you are, maybe help others. You know what? This is what we're going to talk about. We're talking about market and real estate future from now on and the projects you have, because that's more important, because you're providing jobs, you're providing opportunities for people. You're doing your part. You're not just you just to say it, you actually do it. That's important. Your faith is important to you. Your family is important to you. And you know, you're like, there's a certain age group is more sensitive to this pandemic. There's a certain age group.
Hey, Jimmy, can I ask you to pause for just a moment?
Yeah, of course.
Can you edit this out? I need to take this call and tell them I'll call them back. Cynthia? Hey, can I call you back in maybe 15, 20 minutes? Will you still be around? Okay, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Live recordings are like that. Sorry, Jim.
I know one of my lawyers. You just can't live without lawyers. You can't live with them, but you can't live without them either.
Oh, I have my lawyers, and I am tired of paying. I should have went to law school. I was planning to. I should have went to law school. The billable hours, or put them on retainer. I don't want to start talking about lawyers. We need them. You heard,
Jimmy, that in laboratory experiments now, we're no longer going to use rats to test. We're going to use lawyers instead. And you know why? There's three great big reasons. Number one, there are more of them. Number two, it's very difficult to be emotionally attached to them. And number three, there are some things that rats simply won't do.
Wow. I love it, but I know my attorney friends will not be happy.
I know.
They know what they are. They know how much.
So edit that out.
No, I'm not editing. That's a good joke. I have not heard it. Hey, as long as it's not racially, racial or income or gender based, this is great. You choose to be a lawyer. I mean, you know what it is. You know, It is. We've heard it all, but that was a good one, Jim. I love that you can always be able to have a laugh and so laugh. You don't get dragged into the emotions of what's going on.
Yeah.
Calm and collected. This is why I say that next week perhaps we should tape a couple days early to be thankful.
Yeah, we can tape on Wednesday if you want. I wouldn't even mind taping Thursday morning if you wanted to.
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever you want to do, just let me know with a little bit of time so I can plan for it.
Thank you. And we will start talking about what we're thankful for.
Right.
We'll talk about real estate, some of your projects, if you can, and what do you foresee in California or here?
Happy to. And talk about some other projects that I'm aware of that I'm not even involved in, but I think may be good examples of things.
Jim, thank you. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Like I said again, every time I talk to you, I feel like it's therapeutic. Because I'm able to unload a lot of this frustration with my friends that would just keep coming, with the same things. You see, it's the way you say it too. You might share the same views as some of my friends, but the way you say it, I can accept it.
Yeah.
That's the key.
It would be fun sometime. I'd love to get together with some of the friends that you have that are on the edge of certain things and talk about maybe softening their position and bringing them back into reality, because we don't have to all do this all the time.
But Jim, if everything you say, if they watch you, they'll say, "What you read New York Times and Wall Street Journal and Washington Post? You're a liberal. You're brainwashed. Everything that you say is not true anymore because what? Oh, you're a fake conservative. You don't believe in our great leader. It is nonstop because everything we say, there's no discussion anymore. You know, so.
There isn't. But I'll let you on the inside of a quiet controversy within the Republican ranks. Mm-hmm. Some very conservative Republicans will look at others and they'll say, "You're a rhino, RINO, Republican in name only."
I've heard that before. Yeah.
In other words, you're not conservative enough. And I say, okay, tell me what's conservative. Define for me what's conservative. Oh, we have to have fiscal discipline. We can't spend more than we take in. I said, okay, everybody I know agrees that the two big budget busters are Medicare and Social Security. And I know you are 70 years old. In order to balance the budget, would you be willing to give back your Social Security payment and your Medicare coverage? Oh, no, I worked for that. I get it. Oh, okay. How conservative are you? Now, and I catch him in a bit of hypocrisy, okay? And then the other thing is, and I may have mentioned this to you before, my wife made a really good observation to me about a year ago. And it's perfectly obvious once you understand. You have a continuum, political continuum. Liberals on the left, progressives on the left, conservatives on the right. Everybody knows that the progressives are progressively going more and more left. But what people don't fully appreciate, or if they do, they don't want to acknowledge that the Republicans are moving left too. And in many definitions, particularly public spending, and particularly in all the areas that fall from it. And I would argue, despite some of the things you've said about ardent Trump supporters, most conservative people are a whole lot more flexible on social issues than before. For instance, there's a whole group of very conservative Republicans called log cabin Republicans. Log cabin Republicans are gays. And 20, 30 years ago, any homosexual was probably not at all welcome within conservative ranks. But now they are part of the mainstream in the party. And they are now part of mainstream Protestant religions where a generation or two ago they were not. So there's increasing flexibility all the way along. So anyway.
I'm thinking of what you said, and yes, we get too caught up. We forget to see the changes is gradual.
Yeah,
acceptance is gradual. When you were young, me and you cannot sit on TV and talk because I'm considered a, Chinese Exclusion Act. I cannot be on TV with you. We cannot go to the same bathroom. This is when you're young, which is it's not even one generation ago. This generation, 50 years ago, we cannot have African American friends or Hispanic friends sit together and talk. We cannot do a lot of things. Women cannot vote. But as slowly we see changes, but change takes.
I think we have to kind of look at where things were 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And 50 years ago, we didn't have affirmative action. Affirmative action has changed a great deal. Okay.
Could you imagine going back and saying, no, affirmative action? Because back then it was highly controversial. The old guard, you would be considered a liberal progressive instigator because you support progressive.
No, I think so.
You were actually, yeah. But you actually still are. You still promote equality for all. Jim, we're running out of time. I'm sorry. We're running out of time, but I love speaking with you. I thank you for your time. I hope our audience could forgive me for always being so pointed. And I want to thank you.
You bring the controversy.
Well, I'm very passionate about what I do.
I noticed.
Yeah, that's bad.
I respect you for it.
Well, I mean, my day job, we're very cold and calculated. We cannot have emotions. There's no emotions when there's money. When it comes to social problems or what I see and feel, I don't want to be the model minority, Chinese Americans. We're supposed to be quiet and the math guy, be smart, be quiet at the head. No, I cannot be that. And I'm not that. I can tell you that right now. I'm not that.
No. Okay. So just let me know when you want to go next week, and we'll catch up. Thanks so much.
Buddies, hi to the family, and stay safe.
Okay. You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.